Hi guys, Candace here. We are with Kristian. He runs Vigilance Performance Physical Therapy. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
I did?
Yeah.
Okay, I practiced because I was like trying to make sure I got it just right before we got here. Because I've just been calling you Vigilance.
That's
like,
fine.
In my mind.
That works.
Yeah, that'll work.
I don't want people to get me confused with Sean Ryan. I don't know who that is.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Okay,
yeah.
never mind.
Okay.
Or I know who that is. I don't know if everybody else knows.
All right, so you are going to be having a clinic here with us April 5th, which is in a couple weeks, and it'll be from 10:30 to 11:30. And I just kind of wanted to chat with you. Like Justin said, you're going to get roped into this couch interview, whether you want to or not. So we're going to chat a little bit about it. Tell us a little bit about you. Where are you from? What got you interested in physical therapy?
Yeah, so my name is Dr. Kristian. I'm the founder and owner of Vigilance Performance Physical Therapy. We specialize in training athletes and tactical professionals and bridging the gap from injury back to high performance.
Yeah. So, well, then what got you, you said tactical athletes and all of that. What got you specifically? I know you're not primarily CrossFit athletes, but what kind of brought you into the CrossFit realm?
So from about 2010 to like 2015, I was primarily a CrossFit athlete.
Okay.
So that was like my primary means of training for being in the military.
Yeah.
So I got super into it. I went and got level 1 certified. And that led me down the rabbit hole of strength and conditioning, led me down the rabbit hole of like injury prevention, rehab, because I got hurt, my soldiers got hurt, people get hurt a lot. So
yeah.
It was like, there was a massive gap in like when soldiers get injured, whether it's just like a normal training or whatever, getting them back to like a high performance.
Yes.
There was like a huge gap in that.
Yeah.
So I wanted to figure out why. I think I've gotten a lot of information. I understand it pretty well, but that's where most of my rationale and why I became a physical therapist, because I love being in the Army.
Yeah.
And I probably would have stayed in for life, but I ended up going down this route.
Yeah. Well, I know that you and I talked, when we were setting up the clinic and everything like that. For me, there's a disparity between what your physical therapy or your physical therapist do once you come back from an injury. They get you kind of like good to go, but they're not looking at getting you back to that level of performance.
Yeah.
So I know when I hurt my shoulder, the physical therapy was basically like, do this. And then once it stops hurting, don't do anything that makes it hurt again. Well, then my range of motion is here and I don't have the ability to do all the things I want to do. So that's kind of where you bridge that gap to make sure we're back to performing.
Yeah. So like for me specifically, like if you're say you're a weightlifter and you're competing in snatch and clean and jerk, you are not going to get discharged until you've done around like at least like an 85% of your max effort for like a 1 rep max clean and jerk or a snatch. Because I want to know that whatever we did was solidified and you're actually ready to go back to your sport.
Right.
And same thing if you're a track athlete or something, like we're going to go out, we're going to do sprints. If you're a police officer, we're going to put on gear, we're going to get on a treadmill, we're going to walk, we're going to respond to unpredictable stimuli. I'm going to try and do some things to help prepare you for what's going to happen in reality.
Right.
Not just what we can control in a nice environment.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's different than
it's super,
what really happens.
It's super easy to take away the stimulus that causes the pain.
Right.
And then a couple of weeks later, you're like, I don't hurt anymore. I'll just go back. And then it hurts again. It's like,
and then you don't know how to get back to it. Which kind of brings me into our next question. What's the biggest mistake you see CrossFit athletes make with mobility and movement?
I think the biggest mistake that most people make with like rehab type stuff in general is that they want to add a whole bunch of stuff and they could easily just take a look at their training program and see where is it that something changed,
right? And
how can I readjust to that? So like, for example, if you're increasing your intensity, more than like 5 to 10% on a weekly basis, and you go from like, let's say clean and jerking, if you go from clean and jerking like 135 to 185 the next week, it's a big gap.
That is a big,
if it's not planned, because you can obviously have like high load training and you can plan for that, but if it's like the same rep scheme and everything, you probably did something wrong.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of CrossFitters, like we tend to go pretty hard. And so you'll see a lot more of that disparity in in athletes that maybe aren't following a training program, either by a strength and conditioning coach or by, you know, somebody who's looking at the long term, like your macro cycles, not just your mesocycles.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that, we definitely need a little bit of help there. And then, you know, there's you run into it too. No matter what sport it is, there's always a little bit of ego lifting, whether.
Yeah, for sure. I'm guilty of it as well. It's not, I'm not perfect. It definitely happens. I was doing a workout the other day, and I do CrossFit like once or twice a week on top of a powerlifting program. And if somebody says something, the right thing to me, it sparks me and just makes me like extremely competitive.
Oh yeah.
And I will do just about anything to try and.
You're gonna give you
know. So
you can't help
I get
it.
that.
Yeah.
No,
I mean, and that's
part of who we are.
What's the focus for the clinic that we have coming up in April? So what can we maybe expect from that?
The biggest thing that I want people to get away from that is specificity.
Okay.
So one of my favorite professors when I was in PT school, he would say specific is terrific. I see a lot of people, they do lots of warming up, lots of mobility drills after or before their workouts, but understanding why you do things is probably the biggest thing. So like we're going to figure out, do you actually have a mobility problem? Should you be putting a band around your hip and mobilizing it? Do you really need that? Or do you have a stability problem? Or does your warm-up just need to look a little bit different?
Yeah, and that's a big issue. You know, Jeremy and I talk a lot about like the warm-ups as we've gotten older. Like we need a lot more of a warm-up, but it's different too. So sometimes, you know, we allot, you know, 10 minutes for warm up in class, but sometimes I need a little bit more. So I'll have to warm up a little bit earlier and kind of get going. And I do have to work on the specific things. So today we had strict pull-ups. So I'm doing a lot of like shoulder mobility and a lot of things like that. But you're right. I don't think before my injury or anything, I never did that. It was just like go in there and
and sometimes I mean, a warm-up could literally just be doing the exercises that you're planning to do a couple more reps before than when you go into your workout. Like, I think I want to add some clarity to how you approach mobility and stability and warm-ups and cool downs and stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, you kind of, so we had talked a little bit about some questions and you'd kind of answered one of them already. Like we love to go really hard, and how can athletes know when they're pushing too far? So basically, like we all like to wait till we're in pain to come see you. How do we avoid waiting until we're in pain? And then, so like, are we pushing too hard, or when is a good time to come see you even before we become in pain or things start hurting? I
think the couple of things would be if you see a decrease in your performance overall, like generally. So if you could clean and jerk 185 and then that's your max, and then the next week you go, or a month later you go to max out and you can only do 175 and you have a little bit of discomfort or pain with it, that's probably a flag that maybe something is going on there. If you have abnormal lasting pain, so it's pretty normal to be sore after a workout, like 1 to 2 days. If your soreness is lasting longer than 2 days and it's persisting, you might consider coming to see a physical therapist. And then if you have pain or limitations with a specific lift, so if you're going to squat, you got a pinch in the front of your hip. It might not necessarily be like a painful stimulus, but you might be like, what's going on there? That's maybe I'm twisting now when I'm coming up, or I have a weird butt wink or something. Something like that. Then, you know, come and see me and we can figure it out really quickly, probably. And then have a pretty quick turnaround.
And the idea is to prevent injuries.
Yes, I would love to prevent injuries.
I mean, and ideally that's what we're doing. In a perfect world, we're all just continuing to progress. But
I mean, that's what training is. Training was originally designed to prevent injuries.
And then here we are doing it anyway.
So
coming back from an injury, then let's say somebody has an injury and let's say it's something to do with the knee. What would you recommend as far as like, once we're coming back from that injury, how do we continue to stay mobile, to continue to recover? And I know that's like very broad, but just in general, what would you say is like some advice you would give to an athlete coming back from an injury?
So whenever people come to see me for rehab, I take a progressive approach. So everything starts with do you have the mobility first? Then do you have the requisite stability? Can you control the weight on the way up and on the way down? So eccentrics, and then we build closer, more and more specific back to whatever your sport is. So a progressive approach is always my advice. So you don't want to go too fast or too slow. You want to go just right. And so taking a smart, slow, and steady approach versus, because you can always add more, but once you've added too much and then you get re-injured, it slows you back down. So you could add like 5 pounds week on week, or you could add 10 pounds and then be injured and then out for a couple weeks and then try again. And that vicious cycle of like trying and then getting re-injured, that's what I want to
try to avoid. And it's good to have somebody performance minded to kind of help you with that, like you said, that progressive approach, so that way as we're coming back, we do have somebody that's kind of like a team. We're on the same team to build us and help us get back to that spot. Okay, so what is maybe like a mobility test you would recommend for CrossFitters in general?
This might be controversial, but I think the best test is probably just an overhead squat. Because it exposes a ton of stuff. The thing that I think I do is best is I can tell you why your squat looks like that by breaking it out and figuring that out. But I would say the overhead squat for sure, because it addresses shoulder mobility, it addresses thoracic mobility, lumbar mobility, hips. It addresses stability. I mean, it's just an excellent thing. Ankles, hips,
people
knees.
Forget about the ankles all the time. I'm like, you should stretch those.
We'll talk about that in the clinic. So that'll be good.
Awesome. That's one thing I think people forget that they have them, I assume, just because they come in and like, my hip hurts, my knee hurts. And I'm like, have you talked about your ankles at all? Because I bet if we work on some things there and get them stretching and moving around.
Sometimes we say that a lot of people have knee injuries. We say the knee is typically the victim of the hip or the ankle. So the knee is generally, it's a pretty healthy, it's a good joint. But the knee or the hip are likely contributing factors that are getting it in trouble.
It's not at all the same, but I grew up around horses, and so my grandpa taught me a lot about horses, and he used to say no foot, no horse. And so basically that just meant like when you had a horse that was lame, you start from the bottom at the foot and work your way up, and most often you'd find the lameness issue before you got to like where the pain was indicating. So it's kind of like a radiculopathy situation where the pain radiated up here, but the foot and starting low kind of helps you build your horse there.
That's interesting.
And so not at all the same as what we're talking about here, but it's a good like kind of a measurement to like, because your knee is generally, like you said, it's a good joint. So usually if that's going on, it's something else.
What you said makes sense though, because like we have a theory on that was it's called regional interdependence, which is have you heard of it?
No, I haven't, but I'm interested.
It's basically like joints or seemingly unrelated things are causing seemingly unrelated problems. So like if you're this is an extreme example and not common, but like say you have like a shoulder problem, like, well, what's to say your shoulder problem is not caused by your hip? Highly unlikely that that's the case, but it's more so usually like in the kinetic chain somewhere, like we were talking about earlier. Like the knee is a victim of the hip or the ankle. The shoulder one was a little far-fetched, but
no, but it does make a lot of sense. A lot of people get like neck issues or up here in their shoulders, and I'm like, well, when's the last time you stretched your lats? When's the last time we worked on thoracic issues? And a lot of times it's because you don't really know where it's coming from, but this is where you feel it, and it's not always the problem child.
That's it. The back is a great example too, because a third of your movement comes from your scapula, and the rest of the for your shoulder specifically, the rest of the movement comes from the glenohumeral joint. And if you don't have good thoracic mobility, your scapula can't move well on your rib cage. So super important one too. Makes sense.
This is good. I feel like we could chat
about
this.
Well, that's another thing. It's like, you've heard of Occam's razor before?
Yes, actually.
So it's like the most obvious reason is typically the problem. Like, that's pretty much it. It's just a lot of people get blinded by all of the big shiny objects or like all the other stuff that's going on.
They see a zebra. Exactly. No, I understand completely. What's a big misconception you think people have about physical therapy in general, or the biggest one that you've kind of come across?
Let me think here. I did have an answer to this, but
good.
Let's see. The biggest thing, I think a lot of misconceptions are honestly, unfortunately, true about physical therapy. Like a lot of people, they just decrease the stimulus a lot. They get put on like a plinth or a table, and then they do these really low level exercises. And I think in most cases, unfortunately, that really is the case. When people come to see me, that is not the case. That's not what we're going to do. We might do some low level exercises, but it's not going to be like the primary source.
Right, right.
But I think a lot of people believe that
Is that you? I don't think that's you.
I don't think it's me.
Just in case. Yeah.
I think a lot of people think that like physical therapy is for like old people who are hurt or like have a serious conditions, or like you have to have had a surgery or something for you to need physical therapy. But especially my approach is that we want to prevent things, so we want to catch things early. So if we can catch something like a tendonitis or a tendinopathy and treat it early to get you back to training faster and prevent an injury from occurring, then we want to do that. But if you look at it, the misconception that it's for old people or injured people only, then why do like every single professional sports team have a physical therapist
on staff?
So like any elite athlete has a physical therapist that they go to. Right. So I mean, it's for everybody, and if you're an athlete, it's definitely for you because you want to stay healthy and you have to compete.
Yeah.
Or if you're like I treat tactical professionals. So like if you're a police officer and you can't perform duty, like we need to get you healthy so you can go back and serve the people that you protect, you know?
Yeah. We need you to be capable, and we need you to be performing.
Yes.
Right. For all of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For the good of everyone, basically.
Yes. Okay. One thing, if somebody's maybe on the fence about coming to the clinic we have on April 5th, what's one thing you might say to them, whether they're hurt, whether they're injured, or what's one thing that you could say like, hey, drop that preconceived notion, drop that nervousness, come by. What would you say?
Well, it's going to be super casual, and I think like everybody should come to it. It's going to be basically informative on how to treat yourself to prevent you from coming to see me. So the whole point is to educate other people so that they know how to manage their own symptomology before they see me. And it's not like a sales pitch or anything. It's all about how can we prevent you from coming to see me. But if you need to see someone at the end of the day, like who should you come and see? Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know what I was saying.
Well, I think that's actually a really good thing. You know, the people that actually want to help you are trying to give you all the information, right? That's how I kind of look at it. And so, and what I have found is most professionals, especially in the fitness and performance area, they don't want you to be injured. They don't want you to be on the sidelines, and they're willing to help you. Now, that help can look like information on the front end, but once you're injured or once you need assistance, those are going to be the same people that you trust to come to talk, you know what I mean, and to work with, because you know that their goal is to get you back. And so I think that's actually a really great way to look at it. Come by, get that information, have the knowledge, educate yourself. But if you get to a spot where you need somebody, then you know where to go, right? Because you have a trusted professional.
I think you said it better than me. So that's very good.
Well, one thing, let's say, okay, if they do need you, when they do need you, if they do need you, where can they find you?
So I'm located inside of CrossFit Dunbar Cave Lab. Yeah. I have an office in there, and then we do all of the rehab, unless it's manual therapy, is basically done in the gym. Okay. So
I think
Dunbar
that's great.
Cave Lab is where you can find me.
You guys know where Dunbar Cave Lab is. We've worked with them in the past. We've stopped by and seen them. I think they're great. We do battle at the lab with them. They've got a great group of people over there. So look forward to seeing you there. Yeah. In the meantime, guys, stop by. See. Oh, I meant to ask you, how much does it cost to come see you on April 5th?
$0. It's free.
$0. Free 99. $0. So come by. There's literally no obligation. Stop by. It doesn't cost anything. Just come educate yourself with Kristian at Vigilance Performance Physical Therapy. We'll see you guys later. Bye.